Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's etaprime back here again. Today, we're going to be putting together a lower cost, small form factor gaming PC that's capable of playing AAA games at 1440p. And with something like this, you're not going to break the bank. We're not going to be using an RTX 5000 series GPU or anything like that. What we've got here are some relatively inexpensive parts and a small form factor case that I personally really like using. And of course, you can always come up with your own combo if you like, but this is what I'm going to be using. And throughout the video, I'll go over all the parts used. But before we get into it, I do want to mention that this video is sponsored by URCD Keys. I've been using this site for quite some time now. They offer Steam keys, Uplay, Ubisoft, but the main thing I pick up over here are Windows 11 Pro keys. And right now, if you use code ETA, you can get 25% off. So at checkout, we'll just enter the code ETA. That's going to bring the price down to $22.88. They're going to email you that key, and then you can activate Windows. Speaking of that, let's head over to a new PC that I recently built. As you can see, we're running Windows 11, and from settings, we're going to go to activation settings. It's going to tell us that we're not active. We don't have a key installed, so we're just going to paste it right in here, choose next. It's going to activate Windows for us, and we're ready to go. If you're in need of cheap Windows keys, I'll leave a link in the description, and remember, you can use code ETA for 25% off. Starting out with the base of the system, we're going back to AM4 here to save some money, and there's a lot of combos to be had online right now. If you check Newegg and Micro Center, you can actually get something very similar to this for $189 over on Newegg. Comes with an MSI motherboard, we've got a micro ATX, and of course the CPU. And for this, we're going to be using the AMD Ryzen 5 5600X. 6 cores, 12 threads. It still offers some great performance, especially at the price point you can pick these up right now at. The motherboard I've got here is an Asus Prime B550M, and the 5600X does come with its own cooler, but I've got an upgraded cooler here. This is just a bit taller with that copper slug, and we've got a little LED around it. This is the Wraith Spire, but the one that comes with the 5600X is the Wraith Stealth. It's still going to keep it nice and chilly. I just had this, and I figured I'd go ahead and use it with this build. As for RAM, I'm going with 16 gigabytes of Team Force DDR4. Since we're using an AM4 platform, I'm at 3200 megahertz here in dual channel. For storage, I opted for a 1 terabyte Crucial P3. 1 terabyte is kind of the minimum that I want to go with, and you could run your operating system from a smaller drive and then store stuff on 3.5 or 2.5 inch drives. And if you've already got some drives laying around, then you could save a little bit of cash putting something like this together. So I've got the motherboard fully assembled, CPU, cooler, RAM, storage. Now it's time to move over to the case that I'm going to be using with this setup. These are super cheap over on Amazon. It's kind of a no-name case, only $38. It is a bit larger than some of the other small form factors on the market, but with this, we don't need to use a low-profile GPU. We can get something much larger in here. It supports mini ITX or micro ATX. Not a lot of bells and whistles here. It does have USB 3 up front. It's kind of a plain Jane case, but it does work out really well. Now keep in mind, with this case, it'll only support an SFX power supply. And I'm going to be using this 500 watt Apiva. I do believe that they make a 650 watt just like this. The only difference between the two would be the 500 watt has a single 8-pin PCIe connector for your GPU, and I think the 650 does have dual. I've already installed my motherboard's I/O plate in the case, so we can go ahead and slot this down in there. And yeah, I mean, it does fit quite well. You can also go mini ITX if you can find a cheap enough board. So all that's left to do here is install the power supply, plug in all of my cables, get everything cleaned up, and then we can move over to the GPU. And for this, I really thought about an all AMD build or even going with that AMD CPU and an NVIDIA card, but instead, I'm going to be using the Intel ARC B570. So we've got 10 gigs of VRAM here. This is the ASRock version. Originally, these were supposed to launch at $219, but these are around $259 for a brand new one. You might be able to find one used over on eBay. But yeah, if you keep your eye out, you can get something like this. Another option would be the B580 if you can get your hands on one. This ASRock version does have a little bit of a lip on it, so I was worried about the case closing, but it actually does fit. I was quite surprised after just kind of eyeballing it. This does kind of slot right down on it, and I shouldn't have any trouble closing this thing up. Okay, so I've got everything together here, and it actually came out pretty nice. Now, I wasn't looking to build the best looking gaming PC in the world, and we're going to have that side panel on while we're gaming. But yeah, it did go together much nicer than I thought it would. And we'll go ahead and boot this up for the first time. I'm going to be running Windows 11 on this machine. And as you can see, that Intel ARC GPU does have a little bit of RGB, and that Wraith Spire cooler has that AMD logo with the red ring around it. I think it looks really good. One really important thing I want to mention here when running any Intel ARC card is resizable bar, and you need to make sure that it's enabled in the BIOS. With this board, for some reason, it was off out of the box. There is an auto option from advanced, but I want to make sure that this is on, and it might be in a different spot depending on your board's manufacturer. But with these ASUS boards, even in the easy menu here, it's usually located right up top. But if not, you may have to search the advanced section and look for something like PCIe subsystem settings. Okay, so here we are with Windows 11. As you can see, we've got that Ryzen 5 5600X, 6 cores, 12 threads, 16 gigs of DDR4 at 3200. Trying to save money here. And of course, the Intel ARC B570 with 10 gigs of VRAM. So far, the system's been really stable, and I haven't had any kind of thermal throttling on the GPU or CPU. But I am at the stock clocks on everything right now. So if we take a look here with the Intel graphics software, we did make sure from the BIOS that resizable bar was enabled. This will be red if not. From performance, we do have some tuning that we can do here, but I'm going to leave it stock for all of the testing. From advanced, voltage limit, power limit, we can go up to 112% here. And we also have voltage curve, VRAM tuning, and fan tuning. With this ASRock card, it seems to boost up just fine the way it is and stay nice and cool. In my opinion, ASRock always kind of overdoes it on the cooling system. I mean, it's definitely a good thing, but even if we were to take this power limit up to 112%, we wouldn't have to worry about thermal throttling on that B570. And to give you an idea about the TGP on this card, from Furmark, about 96 watts, I've seen it jump up to around 114 when I first initially start running this. Clock here, 2400 megahertz, and if we wanted to, we could increase that power limit, get a little more out of it. But we're going to leave it right where it is. And now I want to jump into some 1440p gaming on this thing. And the first one we have here is Cyberpunk 2077 1440p Ultra with XeSS set to balanced. I'm seeing an average of around 65 FPS, so maybe taking it down to high here. And I think what's really kind of holding the B570 back with this game is just that 5600X CPU. Next game we have here is Marvel Rivals. We're at 1440p Ultra, and this is one of those games that does have XeSS frame gen and XeSS low latency built in, so I did turn it on. Without it, we were seeing an average of around 71 FPS with it, but with it enabled, we're over 120 FPS on average. And to tell you the truth, if I went into this game blind, I wouldn't know that we had frame gen on right now, especially with that low latency mode enabled. I had to throw in one of my favorite games. We've got Fallout 4 here at 1440p Ultra, so we're maxed out. And I did try this at 120. Unfortunately, at 120 with this game, we're only seeing around 90 FPS on average, so I figured I'd just go ahead and lock it down at 60. And with this, I mean, you can have a really good time with it. Forza Horizon 5, 1440p Ultra. Going in, I knew we were going to have a good time with this game. We're over 100 FPS on average, and in fact, this B570 paired up with the 5600X can run this at 4K at 68 FPS on average. So you can lock it at 60, 4K Ultra, and play it all day long. Doom Eternal, I'm just kind of gearing up for Dark Ages, 1440p, Ultra Nightmare. I've got the in-game statistics up in the top right-hand corner, Afterburner in the top left-hand corner. We're not using any scaling here. By the end of this run, I had an average of 138 FPS out of this game, and I mean, it does look really good. Again, kind of wanted to throw this in because I'm gearing up for Dark Ages. That's something I'm really excited about. And the final game I wanted to test was God of War Ragnarok 1440p Ultra, and initially I went into this with XeSS set to quality, but we had some dips under 60, so I had to take it to balance. Now XeSS does scale up really nicely, especially on this card here, and using the settings that I have here, we're getting an average of 68 FPS. The last thing I wanted to talk about here were CPU and GPU temps in this small case. When it comes to CPU temps, side panel on, stock fan curve from the BIOS, average 1440p gaming, 66 degrees Celsius, and we had a max recorded of 87. So it did get a bit hotter than I'd like, but again, we've got that stock fan curve. We could definitely take it up a bit from the BIOS. And as for the GPU, average 1440p gaming, 63 degrees Celsius, and the maximum it hit was 68 degrees Celsius. GPU temps looking good. Would like to kind of increase that fan curve just a bit so we don't hit that max 87 degrees there with this 5600X. And remember, we're not even using the Wraith Stealth cooler. We've got that larger cooler here. Just really comes down to airflow inside of this case. Overall, love the form factor. I think it turned out really nicely, and performance here is really great, especially if you can pick up one of these 5600X motherboard combos, and they're all over the place. Again, I'll leave links in the description to everything that I used, but keep an eye out on Newegg, Micro Center, and even Amazon for those motherboard, RAM, and CPU combos. But that's going to wrap it up for this video. If you're interested in putting something like this together, all links will be in the description, and keep an eye out on the channel because I think I can get SteamOS up and running on this thing also. But like always, thanks for watching.